You are listening to the Objects of Affection collection. Study 1, The Banksy Enigma, Mastering the Narrative of Modern Art. Banksy's rise from a clandestine Bristol graffiti artist to a figure of global fascination was far from accidental. It was the product of strategic intelligence, acute observation, and an almost preternatural understanding of human behavior. Early on, he recognized that true influence lies not in mere visibility, but in the cultivation of mystique, exclusivity, and resonance. Each intervention, whether a fleeting mural or a hidden stencil, was conceived as part of a long-term narrative, designed to provoke engagement while maintaining an air of inaccessibility. In Bristol, the local community acted as both patron and protector. Neighbours would shield his work from removal, ensuring its endurance against municipal cleanup crews. This protection was not merely sentimental. It was an acknowledgement of the cultural capital embedded in his pieces. Banksy's awareness of this dynamic allowed him to position himself as both an artist and a strategist, carefully calibrating each creation to elicit maximum social and intellectual engagement. By the turn of the millennium, Banksy had relocated to London, the city whose global status would provide the stage for his ascent. Here, he refined the delicate balance between subversion and visibility. Works such as Falling Shopper, which depicted a woman suspended mid-fall beneath a shopping cart, and the Always Fail Rat series, which transformed the humble rodent into an emblem of resilience and critique, demonstrated his ability to capture attention while embedding layers of meaning. Each piece was a meditation on consumerism, authority, and societal absurdity, a private commentary rendered in public space. The streets of London became his atelier, a sprawling, dynamic gallery accessible to all yet curated with surgical precision. Unlike traditional exhibitions, there were no ticketed entries, no walls to delimit engagement. Instead, the city itself, the pedestrians, commuters, and casual observers became co-curators, their reactions part of the work's unfolding narrative. In this way, Banksy bypassed the conventional hierarchies of the art world, establishing a direct, unmediated dialogue with the public, a strategy that would prove essential to his enduring influence. For a discerning audience, accustomed to the rarity and intentionality of high-end curation, this approach reads as a masterclass in cultural orchestration. Each mural or stencil operates simultaneously as an artwork, a social experiment, and a strategic communication. The public becomes both audience and custodian, the city a gallery that rewards attentiveness, insight, and imagination. Through these early metropolitan interventions, Banksy achieved more than recognition. He crafted a persona that would later captivate the world. His ascent was not merely artistic, it was tactical. It demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of scarcity, engagement, and narrative control, principles that mirror the dynamics of rare luxury markets. Influence is compounded when access is selective, desirability is heightened when scarcity intersects with meaning, and legacy is secured when each intervention is both audacious and calculated. In essence, Banksy's journey from Bristol to London exemplifies the transformation of raw talent into global phenomenon. It is a narrative of deliberate strategy, cultural intuition, and an almost uncanny foresight, a blueprint for any artist or visionary seeking to shape perception, command attention, and cultivate enduring prestige on a worldwide scale. The forging of a legend, from Bristol streets to global phenomenon. Banksy's evolution from a clandestine graffiti artist in Bristol to a figure of global renown resembles the launch of a rarefied, highly coveted luxury house, measured, deliberate, and imbued with mystique. Every piece he created was a study in strategy, audacious yet precise, subversive yet deeply curated, designed to resonate with those attuned to nuance and cultural sophistication. His work never sought mass appeal. It was intended for connoisseurs of insight, for communities who could recognize and safeguard its value long before the wider world took notice. Central to this trajectory was a keen understanding of human networks and social capital. Banksy cultivated relationships with local residents, underground peers, and guardians of the urban canvas, creating a sense of intimacy and exclusivity akin to an invitation-only salon. These early alliances established a foundation of credibility and reverence that would later allow his art to command attention on the world stage, transforming the streets into a gallery of whispered prestige. Through this meticulous orchestration of visibility, secrecy, and cultural resonance, Banksy did not merely rise. He was deliberately positioned, like a masterpiece in a private collection, to command desire, provoke discourse, and endure as a symbol of both rebellion and refinement. For those accustomed to the highest echelons of artistry and taste, his journey exemplifies the rare alchemy of vision, discretion, and strategy, that creates not just fame, but enduring cultural eminence. The Bristol Underground Banksy's story begins not in a gilded gallery or a prestigious atelier, but amidst the industrial textures and hidden corridors of Bristol in the early 1990s. For most outsiders, the city's derelict warehouses, soot-streaked brick walls, and railway underpasses appeared as mere relics of post-industrial decay. Yet for the young artist, these spaces were alive with latent potential. Canvases waiting to be claimed, theatres ready for performance, and silent witnesses to an emergent revolution of visual commentary. He entered this world as part of the Dry Bread Z Crew, DBZ, a clandestine collective that treated the urban landscape as a sprawling, decentralized exhibition. Each alleyway, each neglected wall became a stage for storytelling. Each mural was a fleeting yet deliberate act of cultural authorship. The streets were simultaneously muse, gallery, and curator, an ecosystem where the audience, often fellow artists or observant residents, played a critical role as both witness and custodian. Their vigilance and reverence transformed ephemeral spray paint works into socially sanctioned artifacts. Operating under constant threat of legal action, Banksy's early practice required an intuitive mastery of risk. Each line, stencil, or silhouette was executed with the immediacy of rebellion, yet the precision of a trained artisan. Even in these formative years, his work bore the hallmarks of strategic foresight. Placement was never random, symbolism never accidental, and community response was always anticipated. He learned that in a world governed by both visible authority and invisible social networks, influence depends as much on perception as on action. Bristol's cultural climate, a rarefied blend of subversive energy and underground respect, provided the perfect incubator for his genius. The city nurtured a paradoxical ecosystem. Illegal acts were celebrated, ephemeral work was protected, and creativity thrived in the tension between constraint and liberation. It was here, amid the hum of nightlife, the buzz of spray cans, and the quiet nods of passers-by, that Banksy internalized a lesson that would define his entire career. Scarcity, audacity, and narrative control together generate cultural and psychological value far beyond physical permanence. Even now, for those versed in connoisseurship and the cultivation of prestige, these origins read like the initiation of a master collector. Value is not solely in possession, but in timing, impact, and resonance. Banksy's Bristol years were the crafting of a philosophy as much as an artistic practice, a blueprint for a career that would merge rebellion with refinement, secrecy with spectacle, and ephemeral beauty with enduring influence. A strategic revolution, the power of the stencil. Around the year 2000, a pivotal revelation transformed Banksy's approach to street art, marking a shift from spontaneous graffiti to deliberate, highly reproducible interventions. While evading law enforcement one afternoon, he noticed the stenciled serial numbers on a truck, rows of numbers so mundane they would escape any casual observer. Yet for Banksy, this was a moment of revelation. The stencil was not just a practical tool, but a strategic instrument capable of marrying speed, precision, and repeatability. This insight ignited a metamorphosis in his practice. The adoption of stenciling was not merely technical, it was tactical. Freehand graffiti demanded time, exposure, and an element of improvisation that increased risk. Stencils, by contrast, allowed him to execute complex compositions in a fraction of the time, reducing vulnerability while preserving the integrity of the artwork. It was an elegant solution. Speed without sacrificing sophistication, repetition without diluting originality, subversion without compromise. The stencil became a medium of narrative control. Each cut, curve, and shadow was meticulously designed, often in isolation within his private workspace, before being transported and deployed in the unpredictable streets. This method allowed Banksy to compose multi-layered imagery with cinematic precision. Rats, policemen, children, and other recurring motifs could appear almost anywhere, instantly recognizable yet infused with contextual nuance. The city itself became his gallery, and the public his discerning audience. Strategically, stenciling created a paradoxical scarcity. While he could theoretically reproduce his motifs infinitely, each piece remained tied to a specific location and moment in time, ensuring uniqueness. In essence, the stencil allowed Banksy to operate like a haute couture atelier. Each collection was limited, each deployment site meticulously chosen, and each execution an interplay of design, timing, and audience psychology. The ephemeral nature of street placement, coupled with reproducibility, created a tension between accessibility and exclusivity, a hallmark of elite branding. Moreover, stenciling enabled rapid social commentary. Banksy could respond almost instantaneously to political events, cultural phenomena, or corporate malfeasance. A new stencil could be conceived, cut, and installed overnight, allowing him to participate in real-time discourse. This immediacy, combined with his signature wit and visual subtlety, amplified both relevance and resonance. By transforming the streets into stages for stenciled interventions, Banksy elevated street art from the improvisational to the orchestrated. Each piece became part of a curated narrative, each rat or policeman a recurring character in an unfolding saga of critique and reflection. For connoisseurs attuned to both artistry and strategy, this evolution demonstrates the genius of harmonizing craft, risk management, and audience psychology. In adopting stencils, Banksy not only expanded his expressive vocabulary, but also codified a method for global cultural influence. The stencil revolution marked the birth of the Banksy brand. Audacious, precise, elusive, and strategically potent, a model of subversive artistry executed with the finesse of a master strategist. Banksy's original stencil for Blur's think tank cover left, and the finished artwork, right, speed and precision. Stencils allowed him to execute complex, striking images in minutes, dramatically reducing his risk of being caught. Clarity of message. The technique ensured his socio-political commentary was visually succinct and instantly understandable to a broad audience. Guerrilla tactics. This efficiency transformed his art into a form of guerrilla warfare, enabling him to expand his territory from Bristol to London and beyond, ensuring his message was not only clear but impactful. Early murals and urban galleries. Transforming cities into curated spaces, Banksy's transition from clandestine stencil work to large-scale murals marked another evolution in both his artistic language and his strategic vision. His first major public statement, The Mild Mild West, 1997, depicted a teddy bear hurling a Molotov cocktail at riot police. On its surface, the image was playful and irreverent, yet beneath that levity lay a complex social commentary. It was a meditation on authority, protest, and local tensions. By embedding his critique in a whimsical yet provocative composition, Banksy established a signature mode of communication, one that could engage the public while challenging conventional perceptions of legitimacy, danger, and value. In Bristol, the Mild Mild West resonated immediately. The community, attuned to both humour and nuance, recognised in the work a reflection of their own social dynamics and shared sensibilities. Neighbours became inadvertent curators and protectors, ensuring that the mural endured longer than most street art. This early feedback loop between artist and audience taught Banksy an enduring lesson. The city itself could function as a living gallery, where each wall, alley, and street corner was a stage, and each observer a participant in the unfolding narrative. By 2000, Banksy relocated to London, a metropolis whose density, visibility, and global prestige offered unparalleled opportunities for influence. Here, works such as Falling Shopper, depicting a woman suspended mid-fall beneath a shopping cart, and the Always Fail Rat series transformed the city into an interactive exhibition space. Each piece was strategically placed, often in proximity to corporate logos, government buildings, or urban infrastructure, heightening the tension between the imagery and its environment. The city itself became an instrument of narrative amplification, with public reactions, photography, and media coverage functioning as extensions of the artwork. Banksy's London interventions exemplified his ability to merge spontaneity with strategy. Unlike gallery exhibitions constrained by walls and ticketing, the urban landscape offered freedom, scale, and immediacy. The work was accessible to all yet curated by context. The discerning passerby could decode multiple layers of meaning, while the casual observer would encounter the art as an arresting visual moment. In this way, Banksy democratized access without compromising sophistication, transforming ephemeral street pieces into enduring cultural touchstones. For the elite or culturally sophisticated observer, these early murals function much like limited edition collections in the art world. Placement was deliberate, timing was precise, and the work's meaning evolved as audience engagement accumulated. Each piece was simultaneously an aesthetic statement, a socio-political critique, and a calculated act of brand cultivation. The streets themselves became an atelier of experiential luxury, rare, exclusive, and ephemeral, yet capable of generating profound impact. Through these early interventions, Banksy demonstrated a masterful understanding of narrative control, public psychology, and cultural resonance. He redefined what it meant to exhibit work in the modern age, bypassing traditional gatekeepers and allowing the city itself to become a gallery, the public its patrons, and the ephemeral nature of street art a feature rather than a limitation. This period laid the foundation for his future global influence, establishing a model in which artistry, strategy, and public engagement coalesce into a singular, powerful, and enduring legacy. The Mild West mural in Stokes Croft, Bristol Rebellion and Social Critique. Art as strategic subversion. Banksy's work transcends mere visual impact. It functions as a sustained, sophisticated discourse on society, culture, and human behavior. Every image, whether a rat scuttling across a wall or a child holding a balloon, operates on multiple levels of meaning. The immediate appeal, humor, surprise, or aesthetic allure is carefully calibrated to draw attention, while subtler layers invite reflection, analysis, and debate. At its core, Banksy's artistry is a dialogue between observer and creator. Each piece is designed to provoke thought, spark conversation, and illuminate contradictions within modern life. His imagery is never incidental. Shadows are manipulated, silhouettes choreographed, and environments meticulously chosen to maximize resonance. Even the ephemeral quality of his street art, the possibility that a piece may vanish overnight, enhances its philosophical potency, emphasizing the fleeting nature of power, attention, and societal norms. Recurring motifs from rodents to policemen to children serve as visual allegories that convey ethical, political, and social commentary. Rats, for instance, are simultaneously nuisances, survivors, and rebels, emblems of the underclass, reflecting resilience and subversion in the face of authority. Children symbolize innocence and moral clarity, often juxtaposed with the absurd or violent realities of adult society. These symbols, rendered with clarity and wit, transform ordinary walls into reflective surfaces for the collective conscience. Humor, irony, and satire are essential instruments in his philosophical toolkit. Banksy employs them as both invitation and provocation. Audiences are first charmed, then confronted. This strategy mirrors a luxury marketing principle familiar to connoisseurs. Desire is heightened when pleasure is intertwined with challenge, and engagement deepens when it requires both attention and interpretation. The environments in which his works appear are as critical as the images themselves. A stencil positioned near a corporate logo, a political building, or urban decay becomes a layered commentary that merges visual sophistication with contextual intelligence. Here, streets are galleries, cities are museums, and the audience's attention becomes a measure of the work's success. Banksy's philosophy is experiential. Engagement is participatory, understanding is iterative, and meaning is co-created between artist and observer. For those accustomed to curated, high-value cultural experiences, Banksy's imagery exemplifies a rare combination: intellectual rigor, aesthetic mastery, and social critique. Each piece invites repeated examination, rewards nuance, and cultivates insight, much like a private collection of rare works that reveals more to the discerning eye than the casual glance. In sum, Banksy's philosophy through imagery is a testament to the power of subtlety, strategy, and wit. He transforms public spaces into arenas for intellectual engagement, turning fleeting encounters with street art into lasting reflections on authority, morality, and societal structures. For the culturally sophisticated observer, his work offers the ultimate confluence of artistry, strategy, and philosophical depth, a rarefied experience that bridges the ephemeral and the eternal. The remainder of this study continues at objectsofaffectioncollection.com. This has been a study from the Objects of Affection Collection, a critical art research institution operating under the framework of post-luxury conceptual functional art. Read the full research at objectsofaffectioncollection.com.